Hi, my friends. I'm back again. I only just posted the diary entry for April 1906, and so we're moving forward to 1921, and we still got kids outside playing, but I guess that's screaming kids. I guess are better than power tools anyway. Except that my dogs get worked up sometimes, so if there's barking, bear with me. And I've kind of been dreading this moment because I have to admit I don't have the next diary entry for you with Coco the day after her first appearance, which was on the 22nd of January. I don't have the 23rd of January, and I am nothing if not disorganized. And there they go. So I hope you will believe me when I say that this is not at all by design. This is not at all to stretch things out. In fact, Ed Hansen can attest to the fact that it's just my normal operating procedure. But so I will have to go to, instead of searching everything, I will just be going to the public library this weekend or on Monday and scanning those diary entries so that I can start immediately to present those to you in full. So thank you for your patience for that. And today I'm actually glad to have a chance to provide some very interesting material, not a summary, but Dmitri's own words. So I told you before about how his habit was to write these quite long, quite expressive diary entries about every 10 days that went on for pages and pages. And we haven't done one of those yet. But so we have done his diary entry for the 15th of January, 1921. But this long entry is also dated 15th January 1921, but it would have been written about 10 days before the one describing what he actually did on the 15th of January 1921. So this is one of the very long ones, and the one way I have of telling where I'm at. So Dmitri doesn't really have a very linear way of approaching time, and he goes back and forth, and he gets dates and years mixed up, and it's quite confusing, although I can't really complain because I'm more or less the same way. But at least I have the page numbers so that I can see that this is page 14 of the volume of diaries that January 1921 was in. And so when we were doing the 15th January diary entry that described the actual day, it was about page 60. So this one, this is a long one, and this one is page 14. So the first 13 pages of that diary volume would have been one of these very long diary entries, and for some reason I come in on page 14. So when I go and do those scans, I will also get the 13 pages for this diary entry, and we'll go from there until we get caught up. Maybe do one of the shorter diary entries of the 23rd, but also some from this very long diary entry. So this is very interesting material because it is Dmitri, when he writes these long diary entries, that's when he really says what he has to say, what he's really feeling, what his real take on things is. So the whole about, let's see, how many pages, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, and 23 are all about the subject, and only the subject, pretty much, of the tension between him and his brother-in-law, Gulia, which you remember I hope, from watching a previous video where the incident actually occurs in Monte Carlo. So he will be getting all of this off his chest, and we are fortunate enough to be able to listen in. Okay, so we'll get started, and I'll see if I want to do all 20, so 14 to 23, if I want to do all those pages or not. Okay, 15th January 1921. And this starts abruptly, I'm afraid. Like I said, I don't know why I started at page 14. Okay, Gulia is her husband, but not her friend. She loves him, but with a dispassionate love, and of course, thanks to the fact that poor Gulia has no understanding of his position, their relationship can never be that close. And the more time passes, the more difficult it will become between them. It's absolutely clear to me that Gulia is really pained by his position d'être le mari de la reine. He would like to see Maria in a housecoat, always at home, maybe sitting in the kitchen and playing the role of the little military wife. He would like Maria to be simply Princess Putyatina, a woman with a common name and the same style as his mother. But that's impossible. Maria will always be treated as a Grand Duchess. In fact, he would have her be seen as Princess Putyatina, the wife of a shabby little prince without any particular position, without money, the son of a caretaker or something of that kind who worked at the Tsarskaya palace. No one takes an interest in Maria except her personal friends, of whom there are very few. But the more people look upon me as a future monarch, the more Maria's role as a Grand Duchess and my sister will grow, and then Gulia's position will require more and more tact. But alas, he seems to have absolutely no understanding of that, and thus he, the poor thing, will have to endure much suffering. We'll have to endure much suffering. What is worse, will force Maria to live through many painful and unpleasant moments. Okay, actually, let's stop there. I don't want to go too long, and there are some very interesting things in this. Not so much to do with Gulia. We can take what Dmitri says about Gulia at face value or not. He describes lots of scenes with his sister being reduced to tears, and the way he portrays Gulia, whom he formerly was always very positive about, is that Gulia was a man who was struggling at that time. And Maria really, even before they'd gone to Monte Carlo, Maria had tried to get him to go to Switzerland with her to get some treatment at one of the places that treated not just tuberculosis, but nervous disorders, as they were called back then, and maybe they would even have gone to Davos, I don't know. But Gulia wasn't talked into it, and she didn't end up going. And at that time, Dmitri expressed a great deal of concern. So this is the first time that he's really angry. He seemed to be dealing all right with the situation in Monte Carlo, but now that he's back and he's writing this long diary entry, he's really letting his anger come to the fore that he hadn't expressed to Gulia himself. And in fact, when he had found out back in 1918 that his sister was getting married, might even have been 1917, he was in Persia at the time, and when he found that out, he had been a little bit, what's the word? Yeah, a little bit, not deliberately insulting, but he'd sort of, sniggered at the fact that Maria would be marrying someone who was bourgeois, in his opinion, and being a bourgeois, wife. But his main concern, he said at that time, that he didn't care about that his main concern was that she had a husband who could handle her. that she was going to be, and yes, sexist. She was going to be a handful for any man, and she needed a husband who was going to be able to, sort of curb her a little bit. And yeah, maybe he himself had felt a little henpecked. Maybe that was why he was saying all that. So yes, it's offensive, but yeah, it is what it is. So anyway, Gulia was probably not wrong in perceiving, if indeed he was, some some undercurrent of snobbery on Dmitri's part. I don't know about on Maria's part, and I don't think Dmitri was aware that he was coming across that way, but he probably was. I mean, based on the way he was looking at things back in 1918 and saying, "Oh, I'm glad she'll have a bourgeois name now because she was still in Russia at that time," and that will be good. That will make her safer. But now this is interesting that he says Gulia is really pained by his position of being the husband of the queen. Okay, so what does that mean? Is that just a way of saying that his Gulia is pained by his position being married to a royal person, or is there again a little bit of the sexism in there that Maria is the ruling the household? She's not just royal, but she's sort of the one wearing the pants in the household. Wow, this really is getting into some awkward territory. And he would like to see her, so Gulia, in Dmitri's estimation, would like to see Maria sort of as a little military housewife who, goes around in a house coat and sits in the kitchen and, not even an aristocratic Russian woman. Let's not even talk about royals or the sort of upper bourgeoisie would have, been sort of a housewife in that sense. But the common name, and she should be just Princess Putyatina. And what the hell was Gulia anyway? He doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any position, he's just the son of somebody who was a caretaker or something of that kind. So what was I'm kicking myself because I have this information on the elder Prince Putyatin, but I don't have it at hand, and I'm not going to stop now. And yes, he was something at court. He was not a caretaker, but he was something at court. And I should mention, when it comes to the title prince, it was, it wasn't, you couldn't really say it was commonplace per se, but there were lots of princes and princesses in Russia. It was a non-royal title, and it wasn't rare. And any of you who are Dostoevsky fans know, in fact, that his book, The Idiot, the title character, Prince Mishkin, who is the idiot, is a prince. And he's absolutely impoverished, but he has this ancestral title. And I've been told that the reason you have this non-royal title in Russia is that it was royal, but you have to go all the way back to the previous dynasty, the Rurik dynasty before, and the Grand Dukes of Russia, or the Great Princes of Russia, before the first Tsar of Russia, which was Ivan the Terrible, who was also a Rurik, but that anyone who came from one of those families, like an example would be the Golitsyn family, a very numerous, huge Russian aristocratic family, one of the most famous and prominent aristocratic families in Imperial Russia. And they, to this day, have the title prince and princess. And so these are called the Gedemin princes. I don't know, it's spelled G-E-D, Gedemin, Gedemin, or Emin, or Amin. I don't know what vowel goes in there. And so they are all families that could trace their lineage back to the Rurik Grand Dukes or Great Princes. And so, they proliferated, and you ended up with plenty of princesses and princes in Russia, and plenty of people to this day who have that hereditary title. Okay, so if it sounds funny when Dmitri talks about a common name, his brother in law was a prince, but it was not a big deal. All right, so this is interesting that he says no one takes an interest in Maria except her personal friends, of whom there are very few. Yeah, I mean, the closest one that I know is Mimi Polovtsov. They seem to be get together all the time. And as you recall, the initial argument broke out because, according to Dmitri, Gulia didn't think that Mimi Polovtsov was good enough to be Maria's friend and to use the informal you with her. So if Dmitri presents that to us accurately, then it seems like Gulia was the one in that instance who was being a snob, because Dmitri really loved Pete and Mimi, and that continued right up until the time of his death, that he was in touch with them. So, yeah, I guess if he was right about Maria not having many friends, I guess that was sad. I mean, they both seem to have had their issues with loneliness, in my estimation, and with being a little like fish out of water at various times in their lives. And he had, he had lots of friends around him at this time, but how many of them were close friends? Close personal friends, yeah, maybe more than her, but I wouldn't say that many nonetheless. So, and no one takes an interest in her. Well, she was very active. She was out doing what she could. So I've been told, and so Dmitri's diary entries in London have shown. The diary entries in Paris so far have not talked about her doing a lot of charity bazaars and helping out with refugees and that sort of thing. But certainly she was doing that in London. She was involved in all kinds of things. And I think my godmother's mother, Countess Carlo, who incidentally was first married to a Golitsyn, and then when he was killed during the Civil War, she was married. Her second husband was a Kleinbuchel. But anyway, she did not like Dmitri. And according to Sonia, the reason she didn't like Dmitri is because she felt like Dmitri wasn't doing things like his sister was to help just ordinary Russian refugees. Okay. And so, that's an interesting take on it, because what does he say here? He says, the more people look upon me as a future monarch, the more Maria's role as a Grand Duchess and my sister will grow. Okay, so the various protests he's made notwithstanding, and he did make protests both in Persia and in England that he was not interested in becoming the emperor, but that he was willing to make that sacrifice. Okay, so he's still thinking that's going to be me. This problem with the Bolsheviks is going to be dealt with, and that's going to be me, the future monarch. The more people look upon me, at least. He's not saying I want to do that, but he's starting to get attention, as we've seen from, he has his at-home hours in the morning, and these various people, some of them quite serious, some of them not so much, generals and people of consequence coming to see him. Gulevich, who has started a monarchist group, and this is going to reach its crescendo soon when Dmitri goes to this monarchist conference in Berlin. And I won't race ahead to that, because that, I think you'll find it very interesting to see that unfold. So, yeah. Poor thing, he calls Gulia. Yeah, that's our good old Dmitri. That's one of his favorite things to say. And, I believe him. I believe that he felt bad when things went badly for people. I don't say that facetiously. I'm sure he would have rather seen his sister have a good marriage and both Gulia and Maria be happy, but right now he is angry because of everything that's going on. So I will leave it there, and we will come back next time to hear more about Gulia, but this same diary entry goes on to talk at greater length about also what was going on with Andrei, Grand Duke Andrei Vladimirovich, and with Dmitri's experience with Andrei in Monte Carlo. All right, thanks for watching. Apologies again for the delays with the cocoa material, but do come back. All right, bye.